don't care how, I want it now.
Where the hell do I put this thing?
It goes in the square hole.
Console exclusives are what makes the gaming world go round, and for someone like me who plays just about anything, that's not as much of a problem. Some people are stuck playing the most recent mediocre Halo because of their loyalty to Microsoft's special box, but I'm able to play that and play a mediocre beat-em-up platformer about a bunch of Duplo blocks that gain sentience because I don't pick favorites. If I had to choose a side in this so-called war of consoles, I would probably find myself on the side of Sony, even if I don't always agree with the choices that they make. I grew up with PlayStation systems, and while nowadays I tend to try and play as many games as I can on as many consoles as I can afford, I do still tend to gravitate towards the one that was originally started out as an add-on for the N64, and has since become all of this. One of the main reasons I'm such a fan of Sony's systems is because of the Platinum Trophy, a digital reward for earning every other trophy in many of the games available on Sony's game systems since the PlayStation 3. Sure, Xbox, Steam, and other platforms have similar achievement tracking systems, but only Sony offers the Platinum as an extra little incentive, meaning that when I get all the trophies in a game, I also get the gaming equivalent to finding a note from my mommy in my lunchbox that says I love you. This is just a bunch of rocks and a note that says get a real job. Now, being the console-hopping little rabbit that I am, there are obviously a bunch of games that I wish I could earn a Platinum Trophy for, but just can't. And unlike some games where either the game doesn't have trophies because of when it released or because the developers just didn't include the Platinum for some reason, the games I'll be talking about today are the unattainable kind simply because they aren't available on Sony systems. So today, I figured I'd talk about a bunch of games that I want Platinums for that are only available on other platforms. I'll limit myself to one game per franchise, choosing either my favorite from that franchise or one that I think would be the most fun to complete. And by the end, I'll still be sad that I can't earn them, but I'll have taken you all along with me so you can be sad too. Anyways, that's the premise. Let's talk about some games that Sony doesn't own for once, as I talk about 10 games that I want to Platinum that aren't on Sony systems, and let's just get into the list. When I was younger, there weren't many games that made me really want to jump ship over to the Xbox when it released. I was entrenched with the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, so while games like Halo, Fable, and Stubbs the Zombies may have caught my attention, they weren't enough for me to walk away from what I already had. Plus, I was like 10, so there wasn't any way I was going to afford an Xbox. But for a little while there, before I actually got a PlayStation 2 for Christmas, I would see previews for an upcoming platformer that just might have gotten me to jump ship if I had money. Blinx the Time Sweeper is probably best known as either one of the original Xbox exclusives people talk about that never left the original console, or as that one game that Jeff Keighley bought a Series X to play. But it's basically just a relatively fun, if at times clunky platformer with time manipulation mechanics. I remember spending hours at Kmart on the demo machine when this game was coming out, just playing the single level that was on offer over and over. And I figured if that one level could be this much fun, the rest of the game had to be as well, right?
This game blows!
If I'm being honest, Blinx is one of those mascot platformers that was more fun in concept than reality. As far as it ever coming to PlayStation consoles, I believe Microsoft still owns the rights to this one, so it has an infinitely higher chance of making the jump to the Switch, if anything. It also doesn't help that Microsoft themselves seem to refuse to make the game, instead just making the original version of the game playable on modern Xbox systems, so maybe I'll just never get a Platinum for it because Daddy Phil deems it so.
It was a zombie jamboree, took place in the New York cemetery.
The Xbox One had very few things going for it during its initial reveal, thanks in large part to Microsoft completely misunderstanding what a console reveal should be. You're supposed to show games, talk about facts and figures, and wear a blazer over your t-shirt and jeans to hide the character logo on your t-shirt that you're hiding until you're ready for the reveal. Instead, I never thought I would be watching a console reveal thinking, Jesus, just show me Madden already. Luckily, when they did finally show off some games, at least a few looked like they could be fun. Rise Son of Rome was a technical showcase that looked much better than it plays. Project Spark had potential but was shuttered by lack of support and unfulfilled ambition. And we'll talk about this little teaser in just a little bit. But the one game that really got me interested in picking up an Xbox One was none other than Dead Rising 3. The zombie slaying, improvised weapon crafting, silly, outfit-wearing mayhem's debut on next gen, and it's an Xbox One console exclusive. Similar to other games on this list, I could honestly just spend hours running around the world in this game doing nothing productive. I know I've spent plenty of time just building elaborate vehicles with rollers on the front and plowing my way through hordes of zombies, and I would likely do the same if it ever came to PlayStation systems. But Capcom shuttered the studio responsible for the game, so I'll never truly be able to complete this series on PlayStation, no matter how many zombies I run over with my steamroller motorcycle. At least that's still fun to do. We've given Microsoft enough of a focus thus far in the video, so let's turn our focus towards Sony's other primary competition and talk briefly about Nintendo. More specifically, the Nintendo Wii. The family-friendly console that could has a whole slew of titles that I would love to see make their way onto PlayStation. But if they had released in their heyday, they likely would have done so by making quick PlayStation Move ports for PlayStation 3, and nobody wants that. Not even Sony. Of all the games on the Nintendo Wii, there's always been one that stood out to me as an admittedly flawed but arguably underappreciated little gem. Epic Mickey might not have lived up to the potential of War Inspector's vision. It has some camera control issues and the choices you make are ineffectual at best, but I just love this world that the first game created. Traversing a world of forgotten Disney relics is an ingenious premise for a Disney game. It's just a shame that the first game is stuck on Nintendo's little white Wii Sports machine. What makes this more of a shame is that the game's sequel, Power of Illusion, released on basically everything for the time, and is absolutely not worth playing regardless of platform.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
The original game may have its problems, but playing this game is like banging your head into a wall until there's a Mickey emblem-shaped hole in it, and then Disney sues you for copyright infringement.
Finish him.
When it comes to first-person shooters, there are very few franchises that I would consider great. Call of Duty may have arguably waned in popularity over the years, but in its heyday, there wasn't a gamer alive who hadn't spent at least some time diving into the online modes. Borderlands is a series that thrives on offering plenty of guns, plenty of humor, and plenty of fun, but I feel that more recent entries have paled in comparison to the incredible content of Borderlands 2. Modern options like Splitgate or Apex Legends offer unique modes of traversal, fun mechanics, and more, but it's hard to tell if here in the now these will truly stand the test of time. But there is one game, released in 2007, that has stood the test of time, and has become one of the greatest shooters in the history of the medium: Halo 3. Tagline, finish the fight. I mean, they might finish it eventually. Halo 3 is probably the Halo game I have spent the most time in, almost all of which was spent in the multiplayer both online and off. SWAT, Slayer, Oddball, Griffball, Infection, and more. I played all of them for days on end and would gladly jump into another round now. And if I'd be able to do all this while earning PlayStation trophies, well, I'm more than willing to down the no. Halo is one of those series that will likely never stray too far away from the Xbox branding outside of cameos in Fortnite or PC releases or what have you. And the same could be said about any of Nintendo's characters or games. So how about instead, we take a focus away from Microsoft and Nintendo for a moment, and look at a company that laughs in the face of the console war. One that could potentially release its games on console, because it already did. Zombies are one of the easiest monsters to use in games, with such versatility that few zombie games are truly alike. Games like The Walking Dead have shambling, hollow husks of zombies, while something like Plants vs. Zombies shows that they have ambitions, like pole vaulting or wearing cones on their head. But in 2008, Turtle Rock Studios and Valve gave the world Left 4 Dead, and the world of competitive zombie slayer shooters with special infected was forever changed, largely because that formula was basically invented right here. The game is simple. Play as one of 4 survivors scavenging for supplies as you move from safe room to safe room, trying to take out as many zombies as you can along the way. Stopping you are the aforementioned hordes of zombies, as well as several special infected with their own unique abilities, and you have to work together with your fellow survivors to escape. Left 4 Dead 2 is a unique case in that it was released on both Steam and the Xbox 360, so there are basically 2 entire achievement lists to pull from here. While there are some of the standard types of achievements like completing each level an expert or using specific weapons to dispatch enemy, a lot of the achievements merely involve doing specific tasks on different levels, something that mostly just requires replaying levels in order to achieve. It might be a grind, but when the game is this fun, I don't mind the oh fuck no, jockey, goddammit, get off. Of all of the games on this list, this is the one I can most see making its way to modern consoles. But as far as games that will almost certainly never make their way off their original console,
Who's that Pokemon?
It's Pikachu! Pikachu!
Say what you will about modern games in the franchise, there's a reason that Pokemon has lasted for close to 3 decades now. Its premise allows the creators to design literal hundreds of monsters for player to catch, train, and battle, and they only have to add a little bit more flavor text here or there with each game to hand-wave away the whole dog-fighting comparison that keeps cropping up with each new entry. While I would just as easily say I'd love to have a modern game here for the sheer fact that they're more easily accessible, I think I'd much rather get this hypothetical platinum with a more appropriate title. That's right, Pokemon Soul Silver. Pokemon Soul Silver for the Nintendo DS is my personal favorite Pokemon game for a number of reasons. I grew up with both Red and Blue as well as Gold and Silver, and this recreation of the second generation did everything it needed to make the experience feel fresh and new. It dramatically improved the sprites, improved basically everything from balancing to world design, gave our world the at the time most accurate pedometer for the sole reason of letting you take your Pikachu on the go. You know, aside from letting you take your Pikachu on the go, and even allowed you to have a Pokemon follow you around just because they wanted to flex. I would be happy to platinum just about any of the mainline Pokemon games, but games like Pokemon or the Mario series seem like obvious choices to pick when talking about Nintendo franchises. So how about we go with something that's comparatively more obscure? Many sports lend themselves well to gaming, with Wii Sports showcasing just how ubiquitous and simple the idea of playing baseball on your TV can be. One such sport that's likely not at the top of most people's lists, but somehow still managed to make it into Wii Sports, is the easily adaptable boxing. And while there have been some fantastic boxing games throughout the years, the Punch-Out series from Nintendo is arguably one of the best. For me, the best game in the series is undoubtedly Next Level Games' 2009 Wii game simply titled Punch-Out, and is absolutely a game that I would love to play endlessly if it meant I could platinum it. Players take on a series of comical boxing stereotypes like Bald Bull, Glass Joe, Bear Hugger, and the best character design possible, King Hippo. And that's basically the game. You can also fight Donkey Kong if you want, but only if you feel like having a Seth Rogen monkey constantly laughing at you. Punch-Out for Wii is one of my favorite games for the system, and thanks to games like Knockout League or Creed Rise of Glory, I could see a VR version of Punch-Out working well on Sony's system. If nothing else, it would accomplish the same goal as the Wii version in that it steals all the oxygen from my lungs from swinging my arms around wildly. Also, I just personally would love to be closer to King Hippo. I'll admit it's not a similar situation to Lady Dimitrescu with this large lad. I mean, what can I say? I know what I like.
I get it!
Be honest. Before even clicking this video, how many of you saw this one coming? And not just because I said we'd be talking about it when I brought up Dead Rising 3 however many minutes ago. Sunset Overdrive is my personal favorite Xbox game, with everything from the open world, weapons, traversal, characters, and more being just silly, stupid fun. The game isn't perfect, and some of the jokes do get a little annoying after a while, but for me, there's no other experience on Xbox One that I would rather play. And what's more, Insomniac owns the rights to the franchise, and since Sony now owns Insomniac, all I'm asking for here is a port of the game to PlayStation 5. If they want to throw that in with a sequel that was teased at the end of the original game, then I'd be more than happy to play that too. I just want to get this game as a platinum. Look, I'll stop bringing it up when Sony and or Insomniac definitively say whether or not they'll port the original over or follow up the teasers that closed out the original game. Until then, expect to see this one pop up in almost every relevant video I'm going to make going forward, because I refuse to shut up about it until my demands are met, which are simply to make it. You have 48 hours to respond, Sony. Outside of maybe Halo 3, Orcs Must Die 2, and Gary's Mod, Team Fortress 2 is the game I've dedicated the most amount of time to over the years. The 1950s antics of the red and blue mercs fighting over literal piles of gravel have captivated me for well over a decade thanks to a bevy of game modes and options, and I would love to be able to earn PlayStation trophies for my literal hundreds of hours of effort. Now, some of you might rightfully point out that Team Fortress 2 can already be played on the PlayStation 3 through the Orange Box. But that's not even close to the same game at this point. Team Fortress 2 on PlayStation 3 is basically the original 2007 release of the game with only 2 or 3 major updates, and that's it. There's very few additional modes. The only hats you can find are the default ones already adorning the various characters' heads, and it released a few months before Sony implemented trophies onto their consoles in the first place, so it counts for my list, damn it. Not even mentioning the lack of trophy support, however, Team Fortress 2 nowadays is just an entirely different beast. One moment you could be fighting your way through Two Fort to try and get the briefcase, sure, but in the next moment you're storming the castle with medieval weapons in a match of D-Group. The next you're taking down waves and waves of robotic doppelgangers in Man vs. Machine, and the next you're fighting for your life against the burly Australian-powered man himself, Saxton Hale, among so many other potential options.
Damn, we get on our ass, bro.
And that's not even getting into the fact that Team Fortress 2's legacy is less about being a fun, team-based first-person shooter, and more that it's a vehicle for Valve to introduce many to the practice of being a milliner. However you slice it, TF2 on PC is just a whole other beast when compared to the simply lacking PlayStation 3 version. And I would love to see a version of the game once again grace PlayStation consoles, only now with trophy support, because that's what this whole damn video is about. What were you expecting? And now, we come to the one game that I would probably take over any other on this list. It's not one that I think will actually be ported over. In fact, I highly doubt it would ever find its way on anything other than a Nintendo console. But if it ever did, there's a good chance none of you would see me again until I earned the platinum for it.
Open your eyes. Wake up, Link.
How could I not have this game on this list? Really, just about any Legend of Zelda game could fit here, but this is probably my favorite in the franchise, and it's just so damn fun to play. I don't think I needed to explain what this game is, but if you're somehow unfamiliar with it, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was a launch title for the Nintendo Switch after originally being planned as a Wii U exclusive. The game features a massive open world to explore, tons of things to do and collect, and a weapon degradation system that is either just a minor annoyance but still fitting for the environment, or the thing that killed your grandma, depending on who you ask. I have poured an undisclosed number of hours into Breath of the Wild over the years just exploring Hyrule, seeing if I can do something and being perplexed that it's something the game actually accounts for, like log riding across the map or gliding onto the back of a Lionel because I have a death wish. Being able to do all of that on higher powered hardware and being able to earn trophies would just be phenomenal, and I would spend probably just as much time, if not more, playing just to earn a plat for this one. But that'll never happen, because Nintendo would likely rather go under and take all their properties with them like the pharaohs of old, rather than let anyone else so much as borrow them. You think they're going to share the world of Hyrule with Sony? I don't think so. Being the multi-platform gamer that I am, it wasn't really hard for me to choose which games I would want to get, but choosing out which ones I would want most certainly was. And sure, one or two of these might be a bit of a stretch, but as of this video coming out, they do not have a means of earning a platinum on PlayStation 3, 4, 5, or Vita, and so on this list they went. Are there any non-PlayStation games out there that you would want to earn a platinum in? Let me know down in the comments below, subscribe, and follow all the other socials you see on screen, and I will see all of you in the next video. Thanks again for watching, and take care.